All right, make sure we start with smiles. That's great. Well, welcome everybody. I am here with the founders of PhilterTech, Christos Nicolaitis and Greg Garner. Guys, this is a remarkable company, especially with the trend that we're seeing today, this whole green movement that's sweeping the nation, whether it's recreational, medicinal use, whatever it is. There are issues that linger there that you guys have really educated me on. I had no idea. And now that I think about this, back in, the college dorms, if you will, I didn't realize secondhand smoke from cannabis is worse than nicotine. And we'll get into all the details on that. But first and foremost, guys, bring us up to speed with this amazing company, the Genesis, where it came from, your backgrounds, wherever you want to jump in. Let's start with you, Christos.
You bet. And very excited to be here. A little bit about me. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've always been drawn to building things from the ground up. And in one of my early adventures, I launched the nation's first DVD movie gift card, which ended up in the shelves of more than 40,000 retailers. And that experience opened the door to acquiring and operating the American Idol gift card program that was eventually acquired by Apple's music.
Wow.
So
I
from there,
remember those days for sure. I didn't know you were a part of that. That's amazing.
yeah, it was really a really incredible process, incredible experience. But um, and then from there, I ended up shifting, my focus to something I felt would have a much bigger impact, and it was something that I was very much concerned about for a very long time, and that's the issue of secondhand smoke, particularly now with the growth of cannabis and nicotine vaping, and that's what led me to starting Filter. And what's exciting about what we've done over the course of the last few years is we have elevated the company to really being recognized as the leader and innovating clean air technology that eliminates secondhand smoke at the source.
It's incredible. And I think the technology is remarkable. And we can go into what that looks like and everything if you want to have that queued up. But Greg, let's jump over to you. How'd you get involved with this remarkable project?
Sure. I came across Christos about 5 or 6 years ago. I spent over 30 decades as an institutional investment manager. I managed funds, a couple $100 million, several hundred millions actually, and a long only fund. I also managed a hedge fund. I was a research director of research where I had 10 reports, equity analysts reporting to me. But in the latter part of my career in doing that, I was working with a lot of small companies and private companies. And what I ended up doing was writing research, Wall Street type research on small companies who were private companies who were looking to raise money. And that's how I came across Christos, actually through a colleague of his. I did it for several other companies that a colleague of Christos knew, and he referenced me to Christos. I did that work for Filter, and it ended up resulting in the first large institutional monies that came into Filter. And as a result, we got to know each other, and Christos asked me to join the company. And so I decided to. I had that offer from a couple different entities, but there are several things as to why I decided to do so. Number one, the quality of the people. I thought it was addressing a health problem that was not been adequately addressed. And I also have personal experience of those who've been exposed and had health problems, and even those who passed away from inhaling toxic air. So
Mm.
uh, it's really, comes close to heart to be working on this, working with Filter. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I know you guys right now with this capital raise, you've made some incredible strides just on your own dime, putting together some friends and family dollars. A lot of people are believing in you, and it's the writing's on the wall. It's easy to understand why that would be the case. And I always look for a handful of things that we'll cover here on this call that I've just recognized over the years investors want to see. And you mentioned one of the things right out was, about a great team that you immediately saw with FilterTech, Greg. And with what you've been able to do, Christos, if you wouldn't mind jumping into that a little bit related to the IP portfolio. One of the things that investors look at is not only a major problem for a large audience that you're solving. Obviously, the audience is massive when it comes to secondhand smoke. So many people are, just in the midst of that on a knowingly basis, or maybe even what I've been seeing with some of the campaigns for clean air here in Colorado, a neighbor in an apartment that you don't even realize that these toxic vapors are coming into your dwelling. You might smell the cannabis, but not realize that secondhand smoke is actually harming you, especially over a long period of time. So, Christos, if you wouldn't mind terribly, just let's talk a little bit about that IP moat that you guys have and some of the patents around this, because clearly this is something that you're hitting at a huge scale. And I'd love to understand how you're protecting that with the IP.
Absolutely. Well, what we did when we first embarked on this journey, it was all about how we could eliminate secondhand smoke at the source, meaning that could we actually build a filtration system that could be integrated into the vaping device, which is now one of the largest growing sectors in cannabis. And as we got into that, we recognized that we needed to build technology that would not only filter secondhand smoke, the exhale, that would go, actually, the way it would work is that the consumer would utilize a vaping device that would be integrated with our technology that would enable that consumer to inhale any substrate that they normally would inhale. It could be flour, it could be oil, it could be concentrates. It doesn't matter. But whatever it is that they're inhaling, at some point they're going to exhale back into the ambient air. And when they do, it's going to harm those that are around them. So what we did is we took our technology and we integrated that into a vaping device. And what that enables the consumer, excuse me, the person that's using that vape device to do, is exhale their secondhand smoke back into that same device. But in order to make that work, in order to protect that, we had to file IP. And we had to file a lot of it. And we began that process a few years ago, and we're up to 9 granted utility patents.
Wow.
We have 6 patents pending, and we have many more that are going to be filed in the coming year or two, based on some advancements that we've already made. Yes.
That's
So,
incredible.
yeah.
So when we talk about those patents, and Greg, I'd love to jump to your side of it, because you've seen investments. And Christos, as I'm asking Greg this question, if you wouldn't mind preparing the slide, I think it would be really great for our investor audience to see what this actually looks like. But Greg, I'm just going to ask you, when it comes to companies that you've invested in the past, and clearly you saw the opportunity here with FilterTech, having that IP in that moat, if you will, the defensible IP is a critical variable for sure. Can you just, elaborate on that with the investor audience on maybe some of the due diligence that you did related to what's in the marketplace already? And while he's talking, Christos, go ahead and feel free to just pull up what that looks like.
Yeah, sure. Well, I can say what I would always look for when I was looking at whether a company was investable or not was the quality of the management. What is their strategy? What is their path to profitability? Is it scalable? And that scalability really comes from the ability, if it's a technology-based product or company, that, do they have the IP to protect, so that competition, if it were to decide to come in, that would have a very difficult time. So one of the first things that I wanted to assess here was, the strength of the IP, and that checked out. Also, just the addressable market, how large it is. I mean, cannabis secondhand smoke is just gigantic. It's actually even 4 times more harmful than nicotine secondhand smoke, that we know is very well documented how harmful that is. And the vaping device market in cannabis is over 7 billion today, growing to 19 billion in 5 years. So the addressable market is a very key factor I looked at too. And the beauty of what Filter is doing is that our technology, as Christos mentioned, is substrate agnostic. So we can also apply this to nicotine, and the nicotine vaping market is growing, is a much larger market. And there's a health movement away from cigarettes to nicotine vaping. So consequently, this is a nicotine vaping, a $30 billion market, going to Well, it's estimated to be about 170 million or billion a plus in 5 years from now. So, the issues with the exhales of creating secondhand smoke are just going to be growing.
Wow, that is huge. And one of the things you mentioned scalability. It's one of the touch points that I like to see and investors like to see in companies related to scalability. And I think for maybe the newer investor and private opportunities, SaaS-based companies on the VC side have always been like the sweetheart companies, right? Thinking, okay, well, you can scale these. Well, the partnerships that I could clearly see that you would want or companies would want to partner with Filter with their brands and use your technology and license that could be just absolutely enormous. Christos, can you maybe elaborate on that? And I mean, I'm sure there's not a lot you can share at this time, but I know just from some sidebar conversations, there's been a lot of really good traction with some companies out there. And tell us a little bit about what that could look like in the future when you're capitalized.
Izzy, I do want to get into that, but can I just for a moment, this screen that we have up, most people are looking at it now. I take they probably are, and just to give everyone a better understanding of what they're looking at, this needs some clarification, just a little bit. First of all, what you see in that hand is the technology, our first generation technology, and that's a filter. It's about 3 inches tall, half-inch wide, and it contains a very unique airflow system that manipulates the airflow of the exhale so that when someone is exhaling into the filter, it'll capture everything efficiently. Now, the key to what to remember here is this is not part of a vape device. This is just simply a filter that you hold in your hand. Okay, so someone they could be smoking, they could be vaping. You might have a device in one hand, and in the other hand, they would hold this filter and they would exhale their filter into this. Now, the question that may come up is, well, why do you have a separate handheld filter? Because earlier I mentioned that we are going to take this we're going to integrate our technology into a vape device. So there's just one device, right? Well, we did this for a couple of reasons. One, we really wanted to gain market intelligence about consumer behavior and consumer adoption. And as you can see, we ended up selling over 190,000 units, and we did it basically without trying that hard. Very little marketing dollars into it, but boy, did we get an enormous amount of data, a lot of market intel, and we baked a lot of that data into a white paper that people are taking a close look at. Now, I'm going to show you what we've done here. So this filter was actually, this is how it's going to be integrated into a vape device.
Oh, got it. Okay, that's slick.
So that filter is going to be integrated into a vape device, and this is going to launch Q1 of next year. It'll be the only vape device with a secondhand smoke elimination system. And what's exciting is that that market, tens of millions of vaping devices of this kind are sold globally. So what we found is that from our consumer studies, from the studies that we've done with our consumers and the feedback that we've gotten from our consumers that have used this prior device that I just showed here, what they told us is they want the convenience of being able to have one device, a filter inside of it. So that was really exciting for us to hear, because that was on our radar from the very beginning. But we wanted to first get this product out, get the market intel that we needed, and that really does give us a very sound understanding of what we need to do to scale the business and be successful next year.
Well, that's what really ties into what I was asking earlier, because I could see vape device companies wanting to license your technology, which makes this remarkably scalable. which, I absolutely love that. And, when you talk about consumer behaviors, you bring up a good point. One of the kisses of death, if you will, for investors investing into new concepts and products and things like that, are trying to change consumer behavior. However, we already know that there's an existing market where people are using these vape devices, right? Because they still want to be able to do that, and in their vehicle, maybe on a break at the office, whatever it is. And instead of lighting up a cigarette, they're using these e-cigarettes and devices like this. So this is already existing. You don't have to change the consumer behavior. Now what's even better is that they can blow that smoke into there, and they're cognizant of the fact that, hey, I'm helping. I'm not causing somebody with my habit to be dealing with secondhand smoke. So I love that. But anyway, continue.
Yes, and getting into the opportunities that we have with respect to licensing, we have built quite a reputation of being a leading innovator of secondhand smoke filtration. And as a result, it wasn't but maybe a few months ago that we were approached by a very large vape device manufacturer that has expressed their desire to integrate our filtration into their vaping devices. And those conversations have progressed quite nicely. And it's actually about a year ahead of the schedule of our schedule in terms of when we anticipated getting into licensing discussions. So that makes for a good opportunity for us to be able to take advantage of now.
Incredible. And 190,000 of this unit that I'm looking at right here, or was it the other unit that was sold?
Well, it was 190,000 of the other unit, and excuse me, that unit, and it's 190,000 of these. And the price points for these handheld filters are range from anywhere from $15 to $30. Mm-hmm. Whereas the price point of this is going to be around the $180 to $200 price range. And that will, again, tens of millions of vaping devices like these are sold each year.
So when you look at what you were able to do with little to no marketing dollars by your own admission, give investors that are listening in or watching this, and folks, this is probably a good intersect to tell you, click on that link that you've seen come up to get on my schedule, where I can provide some more pertinent details related to what's happening with PhilterTech and what they're looking for as far as investors go, and potentially schedule some time with Christos Nicolaitis and Greg Garner. But in any event, go ahead and click on that link for sure. We can get that scheduled. But thinking about what you're going to be doing with the use of proceeds, I mean, if 190,000 of these were sold, any idea on the forecast of what you're thinking in 2026 when you're fully capitalized? Now, how many units are you planning on selling, from those filters to the device itself at a couple of $100 a piece? What's that look like?
Well, I can go into that a little bit. Since we're moving into another market segment, with a higher price market segment, where again, there's tens of millions of these units sold annually. Okay. We have never really addressed that market segment. So this is a new market segment for us. We only anticipate next year that we're going to sell, about 15,000 of these units, but that equates to a couple $1 million of revenue. However, we also have, in addition to the manufacturing partnership that we're having discussions with, we're also having discussions with a distribution partner that wants to co-brand our devices. And we're still in the communication stage. They're actually very excited. They want to come to conclusion with this in the next couple of months. And if that were to happen, that could double our revenues for next year, just because of the marketing muscle that they have. And so we're very excited about that. And the reality is, our technology is very licensable for any vape device manufacturer who recognizes, wow, I can't compete with that, because we're the only ones who have patents behind the exhale filtration in a device. And so consequently, we expect to have a lot of conversations with some of the major device manufacturers in the course of the next year, once they see our device come into market.
That is so exciting. And talk to us a little bit about what that could mean. I'm not holding your feet to the fire, but you mentioned a couple $1 million in potential top line revenue. The 190,000 units, I don't know if that went in as a book loss just for R&D, or are you planning on upping the price? Because you were saying they were only $15 or so a piece. I don't know what it cost to make them or anything like that, but what are the profits going to look like in 2026 if you hit those numbers?
Well, we believe that we are going to be break even by the end of 2026. If we do work out these agreements with the manufacturer and the distributor partnership, which we have, I would say, very high degree of confidence this is going to happen because they both came to us independently of ours reach out, and also they've expressed their desire to work with us very deeply. If we, in consummating both of those deals, we'll be profitable, mid next year. Without that, we still will be break even towards the end of next year to early 2027 latest. And moving forward from there, we see without any partnerships, we see revenues ramping up to 15 to 30 million in the next couple of years with partnerships that can easily double over just the next 2 years.
Absolutely incredible. Do you guys see a day where maybe this would be allowed in, let's say, casinos or more public type of places? I mean, obviously no guarantees, folks that are listening in, but I just love to pick your brain and understand, because I'm sure you guys were thinking that, like, wow, this could disrupt the whole entire market.
You bring up a great idea about it. Casinos are a great application for this. Did you want to mention something about that?
Yeah, I mean, we could. I mean, it's like there are just so many opportunities that we've got because secondhand smoke has really never been addressed appropriately. It's always been about, policies that ban people from being able to smoke, let's say in public locations or public settings. The problem with that is, and we now have, there's evidence of it, is that it hasn't really curbed the issue. I mean, it hasn't really mitigated the problem of people not being exposed. It's actually made it even worse in many cases because the consumption isn't taking place in public places, but it's now taking place in private and smaller and more confined spaces. So what's happening is that now you've got people that are exposed, like children, right? There are people's, pets. I mean, I can go on, but people, smoking and vaping in their cars, and because at the end of the day, we need to take into, you got to understand, what's important to understand is as the vaping market the trend continues to grow, and it is growing at a very rapid rate, as is cannabis consumption. Well, where are people doing it? Right? Where are they doing it? You may not see that outside in a public setting, but we know people are doing it because proportionally as these markets grow, so does the secondhand smoke problem.
Sure.
So there is really no adequate solution. So we've done so much research over the last few years, understanding not only consumer behavior, but also looking into public policy and everything that, collectively. And what we knew is that the best way to address this is with technology. And that's what we've dedicated and focused our energy into doing. And again, getting into the whole casino opportunity or other it's a great, we could tackle it, but I think it'll my hunch is that what will happen naturally as our technology continues to proliferate and becoming integrated into vaping devices over time. It's just going to become more, it'll be a natural thing for casinos to come in and say, hey, you can come in and you can consume, but as long as you're using a filter or you have a device with a filter powered by filter. Yeah.
That is so exciting. I love that. Folks, again, please click on the link. If you've said, Izzy, I've heard enough. This is remarkable. I want to learn more. I would love to chat with these two about the raise that they're doing. We're not going to go into the granular details about that. If you'd like more information, please click on the link. We can make that connection for sure. All right, as we sunset this conversation here, I promise that I talk about 5 things that I love to see in companies, just something that I've learned over the years from investors. Greg, I think you and I probably have some similar investing styles and maybe have been around investors that look for these 5 things. One of those being a major problem that you're solving for a large audience. Clearly, you've articulated that. The other thing is related to the defensible IP or that IP moat. That checks the box for sure. The other thing is this disruptive? You know, when I think about, and I mentioned it earlier, the size of this market and what this can do to that, absolutely, it is disruptive. And, you know, I go to the final 2 that we already touched on a little bit, but these are super important. The scalability and the strength of the team. Let's talk a little bit about the strength of the team. Clearly, with your guys' background, I'm really excited to make introductions for the investor ear that's listening right now to say, Izzy, I have no doubt that based on what these guys have done before in the past, with American Idol and those gift cards that you were doing, absolutely amazing. And the companies that you picked to make money for other investors, Greg, obviously, if you're taking a look at this, clearly you must see an opportunity for investors. So let's talk a little bit about the strength of the team and what that's going to look like with the marketing side of things and people that you're bringing on as you capitalize. And let's sunset this conversation. Or if you want to articulate on these 5 areas, what really stood out for you, let's start with you, Greg. I'm sure we have a similar list, but if you could talk a little bit about the strength of the team and then any of these 4 attributes that typically sophisticated investors look for.
Yeah, well, you know, a big part of my own personal investigation as to whether or not I was going to accept joining the team is the quality of the team itself, and do I have complementary skill sets that you know fit in like a key. And as it turns out, that's what I saw before I joined, but the beauty of it was confirmed over the months and years that I've been here. And you know, we have a great chief technology officer who has a plethora of patents behind him in his history of developing things. He's a great tinkerer. He loves to work with different materials and testing things. You know, so that's wonderful. And we also have a marketing fellow who has been working part-time with us right now and will come in full-time as we start launching, you know, these larger volume products that, well, Christos, why don't you mention about Jonathan?
Well, Jonathan came from, he was responsible for taking the Taylor guitar brand, the acoustic guitar brand, to the #1 position globally.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a fledgling company, and then when he got involved, they soon thereafter became #1 globally in the acoustic guitar music industry. Taylor guitar brand is obviously a very well-known brand.
Yeah.
And he also was responsible for taking a very popular brand called Jetty Brands in the cannabis space to the #1 spot in California, and that brand was acquired by Canopy out of Canada. So you know, Jonathan is an extraordinary individual. We're just very blessed and very grateful that he's part of our team, and truly grateful. And you know, it's validating when you've got you know, people like John, our CTO, and well, obviously he's a co-founder and he really believes in this. And when we first got involved, he was tinkering with all these ideas, but when it came to people like John and recruiting him, he had so many other opportunities. But as he dove deeper into what we were doing, he said, "Oh my goodness," he said, "I really want to be part of this. I want to not only be part of this because it is an enormous opportunity, but more importantly, he also felt it was something that really felt home to him because he wanted to make a big impact, and that really fit within the culture and the ethos of who we are as a team."
You know, you used the word there, and if I can just dovetail onto that, because I'll tell you, if I can add a 6th thing to my list, and not every investor gives a rip, but I'll tell you this, impact is huge for me. And You're helping people. You're sort of that. Think about the young children that are around secondhand smoke, where, you know, unfortunately, maybe the adults around them don't realize the implications. We certainly do here. Not everybody is educated on that. And I don't mean that in a demeaning way. I just mean ignorant to the facts, not just an intelligence level. But as people begin to learn, and that's one of the things that I love about this company, is you're really selling by educating. You're elevating the visibility of the fact of this is a huge problem. Let's address it. Let's help people. This is sales by education. Sales by education is huge, because once people begin to see that, you can't argue the fact, if I am indeed a smoker, and I'm not, but if I was, do I want my habit to hurt others? The obvious answer to that is no. So why wouldn't? It's almost like you should be embarrassed to smoke around others without something like this, because you could indeed be hurting others. I love what you guys are doing.
Yeah, you know, it would be great. It would be absolutely fabulous if there was no smoking or vaping, none of nicotine, of cannabis. It's not a healthy thing to do, but it's not going away. And our ethos is about harm reduction and making it healthier for everybody in the vicinity of those who do smoke and do vape, whether it be cannabis or whether it be nicotine. It's here to stay. And so we're just trying to be on the health track of this habit. Yeah, consumer habit. Yeah.
That's awesome, guys. Well, folks, again, you look at this company, it not only checks all the boxes, but it is truly helping others. The voices that don't have a voice to say, hey, I want to live longer, just being able to address that problem. I love that. And please click on that link to learn more. Clearly, this is a company that is head and shoulders above the crowd. I think if you are looking at this to see if it has the merits to be a part of your portfolio, click on that link to have a brief conversation so we can get you the preliminary details and potentially put you on a call if it makes sense. With founders here, we've got Christos Nicolaitis, Greg Garner. You guys are absolutely remarkable with this. The company, I am just so proud to be a part of this. I think you're championing something that is huge. It's going to help a lot of people, also make money and do well. I think it checks all the boxes in a positive way. Any final thoughts that you want investors to know as we wrap up here? We'll start with you, Christos.
No, other than the fact that we just really appreciate, your kind words, Izzy, and what's really important for us is people who invest in the company are investing because they're aligned with our vision. That's really important.
Love it. Love it. Greg, over to you.
Thank you for your time. I look forward to speaking with anybody who is interested and want to delve into more details. I'm happy to spend time with you.
All right. You heard it from the founders, Christos Nicolaitis and Greg Garner of PhilterTech. Remarkable company. Folks, before this, there's not a huge amount of money that they're raising, and we'll go into the granular details when you connect with them. But in any event, get on my schedule. Let me see if it merits connecting you with them. Get all your questions answered, and let's see this company get undergirded with the capital it needs to go out and help people. Proud to be a part of this. Thank you so much, Christos and Greg. Really appreciate it. Okay, everybody. Bye-bye for now, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Izzy.